Good evening, everybody, all our APIT students and the staff members who are joining today for our very important webinar. Very warmly welcome you. On behalf of our CEO, Mr. Roshan Negodagi, and Board of Directors, today our guest speaker, Mr. Ravi Liyanage, very warmly welcome you here, sir. In spite of your very hectic schedule, today we decided to be with our students to share your experience, probably to give you a fullest the knowledge that you have with our students. Now, objective is today's meeting is basically, this is the series of meeting CEOs created by Dr. Rohan Tatukorala. So today we are happy to be with you. Ravi, it's a great thing that you have a chance to share with our own students. And it's a great opportunity for our students also to directly interact with you, people like you and the opinion like leaders like you, to have their, enhance their education and also understanding of the total universe. So APIT basically known as a quality education, as you all know, but we want to go beyond that. Not only the academic excellence, we need to push our students for extracurricular activities, more importantly, talk about the leadership. I mean, you as a CEO, what experience you gain through your life, we want to give that opportunity for our students to, get that experience and practice in their life when they pass out from APIT. So that is the whole objective of this meeting. And once again, on behalf of the board, Ravi, thank you for being with us. And I request all my students, all our students, and also our staff members to get the maximum out of your sharing experience today, which I'm going to intend to do that. So once again, Ravi, thank you very much. Thanks, Rohan.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would like to introduce formally my very good buddy, my good friend for so many years. It's actually an honor for me to introduce you, sir. Ravi Liyanage brings years of experience and expertise in senior management roles across many local multinational industries, including insurance, finance, retail, local distribution, plantations, automotive, and lubricants. Very rarely you get a person who has so much of diverse experience like what our today's speaker is. He's also held several directorships in reputed listed companies and chairmanships of reputed finance companies. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Colombo, 2 postgraduate degrees, Master of Business Administration from the University of Sri Jawaharlal, and postgraduate degree from CIM UK. He is also a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK, a certified management accountant CMA of CMA Australia, a fellow member of the Life Underwriting Training Council USA. In addition, he is a certified resource person for Limbra International for Insurance Marketing Management. The speaker also was awarded many global and local accolades, including Asia Brand Leadership Award, Brand Asia Congress, the Global Brand Leadership Award from Global Brand Congress, Brand Champion Awards from the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, the Market of the Award from the world's largest body of marketing, the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. He's also a resource personnel for many MBA programs in Sri Lanka and globally, and often called upon to serve in panels of judges at many corporate events in marketing and management. Ladies and gentlemen, Ravi Liyanage, Director CEO Janashakthi PLC, and if I may just say a few things about Ravi, I think there are a lot of CEOs in Sri Lanka who are holding so many positions, and we are very, very proud of the distinguished alumni which is there. But Ravi happens to be a person who has worked right down the line. He has worked on sales reps, area management. he has come up the ladder from product management. So when you tend to sit in a position like a CEO, you see the ground, the people on the ground feel you, and that's a kind of leadership that actually kinds of is required in our kind of current situation like the pandemic environment. So Ravi, I think we all like to hear your story. Ladies and gentlemen, Director CEO of Janashakthi Insurance PLC, Ravi Liyanage.
Thank you, Ron. I think, Ron, sir, it's like the introduction is larger than life. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ron, sir, again calling me to address primarily the MBA students of APIT. But at the same time, world is so wired, Sri Lanka is so wired now. As a result, this link has reached many audiences, many professional audiences, so that there'll be a large audience that I'm speaking to. So therefore, the challenge for the speaker in deliberation, in sharing knowledge, is how you reach the diverse audiences. However, having said that, let's try to engage every one of you around this discussion. Moving on, since this is primarily focused on MBA students at APIT and maybe the other postgraduate students as well, I will briefly address the MBAs and then try to engage everyone connected here. The MBA, because of the liberalization of education, I'm talking about, say, early or mid, not mid, maybe around year 2000. The liberalization started in most of the education platforms. And in our time, I'm talking about at least about 20 years ago, MBA was offered by one university, and that was Sri Jayawardenepura University. Getting there into MBA is you have a placement test, you have a viva, and then you need to justify why do you need an MBA. But with liberalization of education today, MBA is becoming more accessible. So getting through an MBA, if you go through a process like APIT has, I would say it's walk in the park. Unless, pardon me for using this word, unless somebody is stupid, you will make it a Jurassic Park by yourself. So therefore, I would call it, if you go through this right process of getting through an MBA, it's walk in the park. But unfortunately, having crossed about 7,000 MBAs in this country, as a resource personnel, I know for a fact that students are looking at, the undergraduates and the postgraduate students are looking at adding this 3-letter word behind their name. And that's not on. So getting this 3-letter word behind your name, if you go through the process, it's guaranteed if you go through the process. But however, I would like to set a goal for all these students who are, all the audience that are looking at MBA in particular, is MBA is all about, it is an acid test to see whether you accomplish a mental status, the skill set of becoming a well-equipped manager to run a blue chip company of any size. Irrespective of the size, after an MBA, an acid test whether you have done a right MBA is that you should get an accomplishment of running a blue chip company of any size. And I can assure you, most of the MBAs, in particular even APIT MBA, can take you there. So your endeavor should be focusing on getting that skill of, or accomplishing that mental status of, now I can run a blue chip company. Honestly, I'm saying about good 18, 20 years ago when I completed my MBA, I got that accomplishment. The first thing that I did, the first feeling that I got was, look here, I'm too small for this job. I changed my job. And that's the kind of goal that you must set for yourselves. Can I acquire some skill set through an MBA where I can run a blue chip of any size in this country or elsewhere? So therefore, that's the message that I would like to give MBA students at the very outset, to set some goals for yourself, not just adding 3-letter word to your behind your name. Also, if you look at what I'm going to discuss, or what I'm going to deliberate tonight, is it's not the way, but it's the my way. There's no formula for right strategy, or there's no formula for right approach in leadership or management skill. If there is one formula, if you have 4 companies in one industry, all will share 20%, 20%, 20% market share, 5 of them, because there's one formula. So absolutely in real life, there's no one formula. But there can be good formulas. But I'm going to tell you some of the things I gathered in this momentous career, starting from a sales rep to board positions in large companies in Sri Lanka. So that's the experience that I'm going to share. So therefore, it's my way. This is not the best way, and this is one way. And there can be many ways of doing it. So in this process of deliberation, unfortunately, I was also briefed to, shall I say, inspire some of the youngsters, some of the managers who are getting connected to this. So as a result, I might have to blow my own trumpet sometimes. Please bear with me, and please be with me for that. Bear with me for that, because I'm supposed to inspire guys who are connected to this. That was my brief. So the first thing that I would like to place before you, as a leader who is running, who has been running large companies, I would first say, I always have, I believe in simplicity. I believe in simplicity. So sometimes people say, you start with vision in mind. Vision for me is too technical. I would rather say my first thing that I gathered throughout my career is imagination is destination. I repeat, imagination equals destination. I went on explaining this. What you can reach, or what is your destination, is only limited to your imagination. Your destination can be only limited by your imagination. And if you imagine the place that you want to be, the kind of mental picture that you want to create, if that is your imagination, that is your imagination, that imagination will take you to that destination. I repeat, what you can and cannot achieve, only limited by your imagination. I'll give you very simple examples. I'm going to give some personal engagements by myself, personal examples, sometimes in some childhood examples. It can be personal life examples. It can be in the area of sports, I would say. I would say it's a combination of corporate experience and so forth. Just imagine why I say imagination is your destination. Just take a very casual example. If you go for a walk, for 45 minutes walk, or let's say that you go for a run, and you're supposed to, and you used to run 10 rounds a day. 10 rounds a day in a particular setting. And you feel that you're running after a break, after breaking rest last evening. And you walk into the ground saying that your imagination is not the daily imagination or routine imagination that you have. You think that you can't finish that 10 rounds on that particular day. And trust me, it is guaranteed you won't complete 10 rounds. And you will stop at 8, stop at 9. Because your destination is limited by your imagination. Very simple example I'm saying. Very, very simple example. So everything that you do, want to reach, want to imagine, reach a destination is all about mindset. So let's look at some of the other examples. Recently, I was entrusted, that is my challenge from my school. About a couple of years ago, my school, Isipatana College, being a shall I say middle class school, I would say a government school. We wanted to do a facelift in our front, and we had to raise facelift as well as infrastructure. We had to raise 30 million. 30 million rupees in a school like that, a school of that stature, is loads of money. And I was entrusted. Entrusted to raise 30 million rupees. And it was a gigantic task. When I took over, people laughed at me. 30 million, we had never raised. A maximum amount we would have raised is a couple of million rupees, and this is not going to be a walk in the park for sure. So again, I'm saying destination is only limited by your imagination. I took the challenge, and we targeted 200 individuals of the school who can contribute a combination of obviously more than a couple of 100,000 rupees. And in 4 presentations, we raised 30 million rupees. In a series of 4 presentations, we made 30 million rupees. The reason is the destination of 30 million has not been limited by the imagination, by the history. We never raised, but what's the right that you have to say, even in future, we will not raise? So again, imagination is your destination. And I remember being an Isipatanian, my school's religion is rugby. I remember the first day I walked into university grounds, first day rugby practices in university grounds. And first day when I moved into university grounds, I thought, I'm going to leave this side sooner. I'm going to leave this Columbia University side. And that's my destination I wanted. And not only I led Columbia University side, I ended up leading Sri Lanka National University side. But again, that destination became possible because imagination was so strong. When I moved to play at competitive rugby at CRNFC, I was playing as a flanker, those who know rugby. And I was playing on 3rd row. So you had 3 slots to play. And these 3 slots were occupied by big names. One is a national player, and the other 2 players are almost national level players. But again, imagination made the destination possible. I ended up playing 3rd row for CRNFC. Not an easy thing to fight against big names, but imagination makes you stronger to reach the destination. So these are personal experiences because I'm supposed to, brief was supposed to engage the young potential leaders around wired to this discussion. My latest entry, I'll come to that later, right? I can give you personal experiences like this. I can give you the imagination is your destination from larger global economies. If I don't talk about China today, I'm doing injustice to gossips around about China, I guess, right? So look at Chinese economy, 16 trillion economy, right? 16 trillion US dollar economy, right? Now look at the imagination of Chinese leadership. The Chinese leadership imagination is to make 20% of Chinese leaders US dollar billionaires in next 10 years. Sorry, US dollar millionaires in next 10 years. And if you are mathematically inclined, China is about 1.4 billion today in population. 1.4 billion into 20% is roughly 300 million. 1/5 of the population. So Chinese leadership, the destination they want to reach, the imagination they create for themselves is 20% of Chinese population to be US dollar millions. That's destination and imagination is from a global economic perspective. It's the second largest economy in the world. Look at again from countries' perspective, from nations' perspective. I do not know how many of you are aware. Ghana and Korea got the independence on the same year, 1957. And Ghana today is 66 billion US dollar economy. It's only 66 billion. And from Korea, South Korea today is 2 trillion economy, US dollar 2 trillion economy. And got the independence on the same day, same year. And South Korea is becoming 12th largest economy in the world. So I can give you personal experiences from largest economies in the world, experience from those who have not grown not knowing the destination, not having the passion of imagination, not having the skill of imagination, not having the imagination to reach the destination. I can give you many examples of that sort. So the first thing in my story, I'm supposed to tell my story, is the imagination about the destination is my first thing in life. Every corporate assignment I move into, I go with an imagination. I'm with a mental picture creation, with an imagination. This is the place that I want to reach. So that's one thing that I would like to share. Next is, those who are around can be aspiring to be future leaders. And my career is a design career. I did not reach here by default. And it is well designed. Why I say it is well designed, having done a science degree, my peers rather moved into very technical jobs with science degrees and with science background, and that's their dream for sure. But having done science, having acquired some skills in science, I thought I'm not moving into technical job. Having very lucrative management trainee jobs, I opted to work for CIC. That was earlier, now it is CIC. It's the local agent of Imperial Chemical Industries, Colombo. I opted to become a sales rep with a degree. And my friends were asking whether I'm off my head to move into sales rep job. It was a sales executive. It's a glorified sales rep job. But it was done by design. Why I did it in that way? Can you design your career? So at that time, I was fortunate enough to envision. I saw two avenues to reach in corporate life. One is finance, the other one is marketing. But I opted for finance. Sorry, I opted for marketing, taking finance out. There is a reason. I was conceptualized the reason in this way. Finance, you're right, you're recording data. Right? My finance colleagues or my finance guys, my finance friends getting connected will not like it. But this is my way and my story. So that's what I'm supposed to discuss with you. Finance records historic data. Your profits in a P&L is your residue. A residue has no meaning. In fairness to finance, finance has evolved in a different level now. So I did not want to look at residue. I did not want to look at historic data. Action is on top line. Action is happening in revenue. Action is happening in top line. And companies can drive on top line, and naturally the rest will follow. So then I opted, look here, I'm going to do branding, marketing, and selling as a career. Because that is where the action is. And I reiterate, profit is a residue. So I moved into marketing, I moved into sales, and I started as a ranker, but I climbed up very fast in the ladder. So from marketing, by selecting, and I took a major risk in selecting marketing because at that time, I'm talking about mid-90s. At that time, boardrooms were filled with finance guys. Trust me, boardrooms were filled with finance guys. And I can remember maybe just one or two marketers in the boardroom, and it's merely zero. But I knew companies can turn around fast only for marketers. So that's the reason I select marketing. And that's the reason I select selling as a career. So therefore, throughout my career, I'm a major fan of taking new challenges, breaking into or walking into sinking ships. And I enjoy it. And most of the startup companies I launched in my career by myself, about 5 companies, just taking a foolscap paper and a pen and conceptualized from there. And out of those 5 companies, 2 companies categorized under today larger segmentation or larger category in Company Act as large companies with over 3 billion. 2 companies are in mid-tier. And out of 5 companies, 1 is closed. That is due to uncontrollable factor I will explain to you later. So out of 5 companies, 4 are very successful. But why I could turn around or why I could throw these companies, get into the level very fast, is because my orientation towards top line and sales. I was not looking at historic figures or recorded historic figures or the residue of an organization. I'm a strong believer that will follow. Moving on. So I would always like to look at a challenging situation. My previous assignment, I walked into an organization making severe losses. But I was clear with my destination. I was clear with my destination, and my imagination is stronger to reach there. And we literally moved that company to a strong number 2 from number 6 and to number 1 at the time of signing off, right? Obviously, that one factor was beyond the nearest competitor, but we signed off as market leader. Loss-making company to a market leader. That is again because of sheer passion to reach destination and very critical imagination to reach there. And everything is in the mindset. So moving on, sales career, that design career gave me the fearless approach for new ventures and getting into new assignments. So that's what I want to say. That's my story, because that's the sales marketing led story. Okay, so I'm supposed to also say, okay, when you get around with people, when you get an assignment in a corporate assignment, now the biggest challenge is how do you get people on board with you? And that's the biggest challenge, because I worked in multi industries, both local and multinational, and different assignments. I worked for a conglomerate with 35 active companies where I had to play a role in certain companies. But the challenge is, how do you get people on board? So that's the story, that next story that I want to share. See, a lot of research, including HBR. If you look at many research in the corporate culture, in corporate area, many research, including HBR, and they say every 1 out of 2 is disengaged with the organization. They work, but the engagement is not the engagement what you would like to see. 50% of people is disengaged. 30% of people is engaged. I'm just summarizing few research papers put together. But they say 15% is actively engaged. I repeat, 50% disengaged, meaning they are working, but the engagement is not great. 30% engaged and 15% is actively engaged. Now, how can you get these guys on board? How can you get down? See, I had to do this on a regular intervals. When you take an assignment, you move into a new culture, new place, new setting, so that you need to get people on board. So that's a challenge, right? See, how do you handle that challenge? Number one, can you be the agent of hope? I repeat, can you be the agent of hope? How can you create hope when you move into a brand new setting? Brand new people, brand new industries, brand new products. How do you bring the element of hope in there? On your arrival, they're going to appraise you. Rest assured, can this guy make it? So that's the first appraisal that team around you is going to have on you. Are you ready for it? So how do you do this? How can you be an agent of hope? Now, what happens is, the first approach I have looked at is, can you be a storyteller? When I say storyteller, it's not about telling stories about others. Can you bring your original story to the table? Can you bring original story that you have to the table? So that, and in certain settings and certain vocabulary, you might call it as your track record. But how do you articulate it? How do you articulate your track record? How do you articulate your story to bring about hope of new renewed energy in people? I had to do it in many times, many intervals. So also, therefore, make sure that you tell your honest, original story. How do you do that? Right? How do you do that? Number one is, you need to be humble enough to say, your humble beginnings. And they must believe in you. You're an ordinary man who has come a long way, and he is one of them, and he's not flying 30,000 feet above. And above all, that person is a human being who would like to be part of your welfare, and who is going to spread the stewardship to look after your team. So how do you bring this story, right? So youngsters, guys who are looking at MBAs, guys who are trying to achieve more places, right? I would like to tell my story in this way. When you're a junior manager, what's the story that you are going to envision? When you're a junior manager, senior manager, then a general manager, and a CEO, so what kind of story that you can build around you? What can you answer? What's the genuine story that you're going to share? So obviously, when you're a junior manager, you talk about your character, you talk about your school achievements, university achievements, what you have done to the society, all that. As a junior manager, you don't have much experience to share. So when you're going through the ladder, you need to collect those stories. You need to create those stories. You need to collect genuine stories. So I moved from a junior management as a sales rep to a product manager to a brand manager to, and so forth, because I realized selling is going to be not the skill of reaching places. So I get into product management and brand management. As a senior manager, I was working hard to take an organization at that time to be market leader in their own category, own sphere, own industry. So my first story is head of marketing taking a brand to market leadership. So now I have a story to tell for my next guys. And at that time, by doing that, I was awarded. I was looking at collecting credentials. So I collect a credential as Marketer of the Year by the largest body for marketing, that is CIM UK. So at senior manager level, I collected that accolades and credentials to be as a head of marketing. This is what I did. So I'm now painting my story, and that's a first step. And these are original stories. That's what I say. You have to be a storyteller, but your original story. Right? Next, I move into general management. When I move into general management, so I was responsible to build large brands. These brands are a couple of billion rupees worth brands. I build large brands in insurance industry worth couple of billions. And driving the market position of companies from one couple of notches up, as taking them on the ladder in the industry ranking, industry position, bringing them up there. So as a general manager, I create that impact in the industry. And in that particular era, by mere sheer driving the brands and organizations in that way, I was also awarded with Asian Brand Leadership Brand Champion by Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, both local, global brands. I've been called for, I was seeking mobility in the fraternity, so that I have been also pointed as I was called for judging of awards and so forth. So I seek that opportunity because I need to build that original story for me. So then I moved on from general management. I moved on to lead organizations. Sometimes lead part of large conglomerates. So there I created companies, as I said. I created 4 companies just with a pen and a paper. And those companies, being found a CEO, right, in certain companies, and those companies were brought in as a market challenger to industry, in particular insurance. So as a market challenger, I moved them up on certain market positions. Having created companies, I said about out of 5 companies, 4 are doing good, and 2 companies are over 3 billion, categorized under large companies. So as a CEO, I have a story to tell now. So when you go on your career, when you go on the ladder, and it's important that you collect credentials, that you create credentials, that you create mobility, in the industry, that you create mobility with professional bodies, professional figures, so that your network becomes, right? Your net worth is your network. So your network becomes bigger and larger. So that create your original story. So that is the way that's one of the way that I did. So moving on. So when you create your original story, and when you relate your original story, when you relate turning around companies, building brands, taking brands to different market percentiles up and market positions up, and then you become an agent of hope. And then your team is going to say, then your team is going to believe you and say, okay, this guy, we now have a hope of growth, hope of future in this place. This is how I did it, creating my own story, picking my own credentials, working towards my own credentials. So that's about a leader. If you want to lead a team, if you want to be an agent of hope, create your credentials, create your story. Moving on, one other thing I would like to share is you must be so clever in your emotional intelligence. If your emotional intelligence is weak, and then it's going to be a challenging situation. I would like to also say emotional intelligence, how you use it, how you arrive in a formula to use it. And I'm sure at least some part in your life, you would have also gone through a concept called Maslow's hierarchy. I use this concept augmented slightly in organizations. So I've seen frontliners, sales force in particular, and they are motivated and they are driven by economic needs, literally. So the bottom end of the tier and mid end of the tier. So that the moment I have used the successful formula in my story is that you give them income targets. You push them for income targets irrespective of the industry. When you push them for income targets, and when they achieve income targets, and they change their lifestyle. And once they change their lifestyle, there's no comeback. They have to earn that. They have to earn that income. And it worked multiple industries. Next is your mid-tier, your middle managers, your back office and all that who supports this sales drive in any organization. Maybe the rest of the staff is motivated by maybe mid, not lower tiers in the hierarchy, and maybe on the belongingness and recognition. And sometimes you have to change the structure to accommodate them. High performers need to be accommodated. So you recognize them on more belonging needs. Because people, I have seen people work for people more than organizations. That's something that I would like to share. I repeat, people work more for people than organizations. People leave relationships. People won't leave organizations. So how could you deal with this emotional intelligence? Is a challenge, is an art, and how you do it is your forte. And how do you negate? And that's what I said. Conceptually, Maslow's hierarchy is a great thing. You push your frontliners to bottom tiers, and your middle managers and senior managers on the mid tier, you drive them on these two different tiers. And this has been very successful. Next is love. You need to love your people, and people comes before anything else. This has been practicing the last 10 years. But only thing is, don't show them that you love them. Show them you're a task-oriented guy more than a people-oriented guy. Because people has to be pushed with a lot of love and care. But showing task orientation is much easier, and it works well, right? Keeping the people orientation only in your heart. That's the femininity of a manager. The femininity of a manager is you absorb. So this is what I have seen. This is something that I used. Another thing is, all this time in my story, I've been looking at equity theory. Those guys who learn in social sciences will learn this, MBAs will learn this very soon as equity theory. Equity theory means, unfortunately, people, especially in Asian context, they're not looking at what they are getting, they're looking at what other man is getting. So that you have to be using equity theory. You have to be, if you want to be a successful leader, your all subordinates must feel this guy is level-headed guy. He has no favorites. Everybody is in the same equation. And that equity theory is a very, very powerful tool in Asian context, Sri Lankan context. I've seen this in India, also having worked with Indians. Also, since of late, maybe last 10 years, I was using the biological ratios very well. You know what biological ratio is? You will not find it. If you don't go and Google now biological ratio, you will not find it. And that's my own finding as biological ratio. The biological ratio is, you have two eyes. You are given two eyes. That is to observe very well. You are also given 2 ears. That is to hear even better. And you are given only one mouth. That is to talk appropriately. So the biological ratio, I've seen a lot of guys becoming unsuccessful using how do I say it? I would rather call it mixing this biological ratio. So again, biological ratio is 2 eyes, 2 ears, but only one mouth, so that talk less, talk appropriate. So this has been I have been doing it for the last 10 years and I have seen it very successful. Right. One other thing, in my story, in every organization, every assignment, I encourage celebrate small victories. Celebrate small victories. Personally, professionally, both. Because small victories creates the biggest victory. Obviously, we need to celebrate big victory for sure. But can you celebrate at micro level? It can be a large organization, a factory level. Right? In my previous organizations, we celebrate at factory level, we celebrate at dealership level, we celebrate at regional house level, right? We celebrate at organizational level at large. So celebrate small victories, encourage to celebrate small victories. Small victories only can drive a large victory. It's a no-brainer. So celebrate small victories. Encourage people to celebrate. Celebrate people's birthdays is like celebrating a small victory in a small way, in their own way, in their own micro level of the organization. Moving on, I think we are almost hitting the time. Okay. Next is be reasonable in your judgment. Show them you're reasonable in your judgment. How do you be reasonable in judgment? And this comes with sheer experience. This comes with learning moments in organizations. In your life, all learning moments put together. In your life, all learning moments put together becomes what? Becomes your experience. Here, I use two things. I have been using two things. One is the sources of power of an individual. If you look at your main two sources of power, one is your position power and one is your personal power. The latter is so strong, in my opinion. I repeat, the power of sources of power in a human being, in a corporate setup, largely comes from position power and personal power. For those who try to use position power, I've seen failing. I've seen those guys who have more personal power makes them a successful manager, successful leader, successful CEO. Why I say personal power? Because position power is given. But however much position power that you have, your personal power is not superseding that or not come closer to your position power, bird is not going to fly. Because your personal power comes from your character. Your personal power comes from your achievements. Your personal power comes from your exposure. Your personal power comes from your ability to make judgment. Your personal power comes from thinking about your destination. Be passionate about the destination. So use and create personal power over position power. I repeat, I'm a strong believer of personal power than position power. If you do not know, if you're vulnerable in a situation, right? If you do not know, tell them you don't know. Don't be scared to say, I don't know. Because you are neither Superman nor the Spider-Man. If you don't know, you don't know. That's okay. But people will respect that. So build your personal power. Personal power builds on character, the exposure, the kind of achievement that you have reached, this is how you reach personal power. And it becomes unbeatable. Your position power is beatable. Your position power, stroke of a pen, somebody can take it off. Sorry, your position power, your personal power, no one can take it from you. Moving on, another thing that I, in my story, have used, are you willing to unlearn? I've seen a lot of corporate setting, a lot of managers cannot unlearn things. Why I'm saying unlearn? Unlearning is so important. Why do I say that? People think you have not done something in your life historically, and you are saying, I can't reach there, I can't achieve it. Why? You don't want to unlearn, you haven't reached there, you haven't done it. So you think your decisions, your destination, your imagination stops or overrides by your history because you are not unlearning history. Unlearn history. People become first. People become first for the first time. Those who become first for the first time, have they been historically reaching? No. And I have seen in corporate setting, people are saying, we tried it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, couple of years ago, we don't want to get in there. But remember, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, context is not today's context. If you fail in 5 years, it doesn't work in 5 years. But there's no formula to say it is not going to work today. Because your context is different. Market forces different. Market dynamics different. So unlearning is a great thing in my, great believer of unlearning in my story. Another thing, a combination that I would like to tell in front of you or share in front of you is there a corporate athlete in you? I call it corporate athleticism. There's no word in Oxford dictionary called athleticism. But I would like to, I like to be a little controversial. I like to bring new terms, new terminology. There's no word, I guess, in Oxford dictionary called athleticism. But I call it corporate athleticism. I'm asking a question. If you want to be a corporate leader, is there a corporate athleticism in you? Is there a corporate athlete in you? So why do I say that? Look at a winning athlete. Look at your school days. Look at the sports that you do. A winning athlete or a winning sportsman or a sportsman has only one focus. That's winning. Athlete, sportsman is having only one focus. Is winning. He is not playing to lose. He's not playing to lose. That's number one. Number two, when you are doing sports, when you are playing for a match, when your imagination is to win, you see no constraints. Under any circumstances, under any constraint, you want to win. But in corporate life, you see many constraints. Why? Because you're not engaged. You're not properly engaged. You're not actively engaged. Therefore, you see constraints. But in a game of rugby, you don't see constraints. There was a time, I remember, when I was in uni and playing for Colombo University. There was a time I couldn't purchase a boot. I did not have means of purchasing a rugby boot. There I used to tie my lace, and generally you tie your lace to the boot. I used to tie my lace around the foot to get the boot fixed to my foot. But I never saw that as a constraint to win. But why do you worry about constraints in corporate life? And some of you need everything to perform. If there is everything, there's no point in being saying there's no athlete in you. There's no sportsman in you. A sportsman, they don't see constraints. They have one focus to win. In sports, you're playing a rugby match. If you're playing a cricket match, somebody is batting in the middle, the captain cannot micromanage him. In a sport, in a rugby game, right? In a setting, you cannot micromanage a guy. So in sports, you trust every member of the team, and you don't go and micromanage, because you have taken him on board on his skills. So you have trust on him. Because what happens in large organizations, micromanagement is not scalable. I repeat, micromanagement is not scalable. And you don't do it in sports. And if there is a athlete in you, you will trust your members. But you will select your members if they're suitable only. Right. So this is a question that I'm asking. Do you have? Is there an athlete in you? So that is what I ask. If you want to perform in corporate life at higher scale, at higher level, right? And you must have an athlete in you. Next, in conclusion, I would like to tell you something that I do as my story. Every time in my life, outside corporate life, I have something to keep my life going on a personal basis. I have been playing competitive sports in some way or the other. In fact, when our heydays, we were clocking in our rugby team as about 100 meters in maybe around 12 seconds. I've been trying it even last week. Though I cannot reach 12 seconds, I'm testing myself. What's the deviation that I have? Because I need to keep that adrenaline rush. I need to keep that adrenaline rush personally so that I used it in corporate life. I've been some way or the other involving right through even to date, playing sometimes squash, and we had a team. We had a couple of guys playing, and within us we had rankings to keep our momentum going. Latest is I started playing golf. I play very competitive golf. I like that adrenaline rush because that keeps you going as a person, and that's bring the athleticism in you, and that will help you in your corporate competitiveness, because your mind is tuned for competitiveness. We have a golf group We play competitive golf. We have a golf group of 12 guys. We have 4 tournaments within that group. And these all guys are younger than me. And between 25 to 35, some guys are zero handicappers, those who know about golf. But last tournament, I won the trophy. Why I do this is to keep that competitiveness, keep my mind competitive. So I would like to share that story. Be competitive in your personal life. Keep that adrenaline rush going. I will do it until I dead drop. So keep that adrenaline rush going, and that helps you to perform in corporate life. This is about, very briefly, my story. I had to, say who I am. I had to share some of the things that I do. I had to show that what I had done to inspire some of you. That was my brief. So here I am in conclusion. Thank you very much for the patience. I hope there is, at least in a deliberation, if you can gather one point which can change your life, I think you're done for the day. So thank you very much for being here tonight. And for everybody, stay safe and have a great evening.
Thank you, Ravi. And I think it was very interesting. Normally, our speakers speak only for 20 minutes, but you battered exactly an hour. And yet there was so much that I would want to have listened to what you were saying. So we'll have a quick Q&A, a fireside chat. There are many questions coming out. Some have been texted to me, some are WhatsApped, and some are coming through the chat. So let me just throw you a few questions. Some I have combined. So tell us, what has been your biggest failure?
Oh, biggest failure. Okay. Biggest failure, I think, as I said, we floated a company. I was interested to float a company. Unfortunately, somebody was instrumental in forming up, moved up with some agencies out. So that is a fairly big failure, because I guess the controls were not very great. That's a sizable failure.
So what did you pick up from that, Ravi?
See, certain things, I think, I picked up very seriously the trust. Yes, we need to trust people. And at the same time, we need to also go through a process of creating some values so that people become part of the value system, so that they won't do this kind of things going forward.
So are you happy with the person that you have become?
I'm very much happy who I am.
Have you ever let down a boss in your career?
How do I say? I have not let down a boss per se, but I left relationships. So people leave, not people, but people leave relationships. But losing relationships are hard.
I did a bit of research. I don't know whether I'm correct, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But in the last 3 months, the organization which you lead, you have given almost a 51% revenue growth, while the whole world is crashing. You have turned around the company. Am I right what I'm saying?
I do not know how you got that. Okay, you have done some research for sure. Yeah, we are more or less there.
So tell me something. Have you seen a new set of leaders emerge during the pandemic?
See, if you look at during pandemic, I think globally, if you look at the Amazon boss is becoming the world richest. He adjusted the world rich list as the richest in the world by heaps and bounds, beating good old Bill Gates by $186 billion US. That's a very significant thing I have seen. And Jeff has become almost double the size of Sri Lanka. And he's double the size of GDP of Sri Lanka in globally. But in locally, I feel I have seen a lot of small entrepreneurs are coming up with this global pandemic. And guys who would like to, shall I say, get into real hardcore entrepreneurship is going to be the winners with this pandemic, because things are not easy, and environment is not easy, economy is not easy. We need guys who can tie the boot to your foot and play a rugby game.
Have you seen people like that in your own company right now in the last 3 months?
Of course I have seen guys who can pick up things very fast given the environment to perform.
Ravi, are you sad about the way the country is run?
Rohanta, I thought you're a good friend of mine, Rohan. I felt you're a good friend of mine. All this time I've been thinking you're a good friend, but this question completely turned me the other way. So you're saying, okay, country, government and country will have, of course, many challenges. It's a pandemic. It's not an easy thing to, shall I say, navigate. We have friends in both parties and both sides. Having said that, it's a challenging situation. Government will find it difficult. How do I say? Having looked at socio-economic indicators and the numbers, looks like we are not doing great. I'll leave it at that.
So if you are made president of Sri Lanka, starting a life as a career sales rep, moving up the ladder, I know you, Ravi, and I know about the boot story, but today you're winning golf tournaments around the world, and every weekend you're playing golf in Shangri-La and Tigana. If you were made president, what would you do?
See, I don't know whether you watched this, what do you call, there's a TV channel having a question and answer program. They give you an option whether you want to take it or leave the question. You're not fair not giving me that option. No?
No, I'm just trying to understand.
I will tell you, if I made the president immediately, I will send both Astra and Seneca to you.
Exactly.
I will vaccinate the nation immediately, and I'll stop it at the rest. I will leave for a personal discussion.
So, Ravi, I see you jogging on Independence Square. I do martial arts, but you play rugby, and what do you get from golf? I really can't fathom what you get from golf.
See, in my story also I mentioned I used to pick some sport to keep me competitive and keep my adrenaline rush, because when I perform there, when I play that game, I can also concentrate on the corporate life. So this game, actually, those who know golf, this is a you compete with yourself, because you know something called handicap. You always try to, shall I say, be a zero handicapper or reduce your handicapper. You just try to compete with yourself, and when you compete with yourself, you bring out the best in you, and then that's a great sense of achievement. You better every day in your handicap. You try to beat yourself on a regular basis.
Ravi, what is the advice you'll give a youngster doing an MBA right now, what is the one key thing that you would
As
want?
I said at the outset, youngsters must never ever look at MBA as collecting credentials. You put 3 letters behind your name, and that's how the passion is now. Now again, having crossed about 7,000 MBAs, I know. So that's by and large the need of the hour. But if you use your MBA, if you engaged in your MBA, and if you develop your skill set by engaging it, and you can reach a state of accomplishment to see, right? It's more than owning that 3-letter. The deliberations can take you to the mental state of running a blue chip of any sort if you go through that process. And that is what the MBAs must keep that in mind. Can I run a blue chip? Because MBA is designed to convert a functional manager to a business manager, functional manager to a general manager. Right? You have your CMA to marketing to IT degrees to HR degrees. In MBA, you learn across the organization. So you are a jack of all trades. But can you wear the hat of a CEO and learn that so that you transform from a functional manager to a business manager? And that's the advice. That's a path. That's a process. And that's a mindset that you should have developed towards MBA.
You said that starting your life as a sales rep was not by accident, but it was designed.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do you go now, Ravi? What next?
How do I say? I think it's time that we also should give something back to the society. I like to get involved with grooming high-performing individuals, youngsters, getting into knowledge sharing and that kind of space. That would be my next destination.
That would be fantastic.
The day that I finish current responsibilities, yeah.
You know, yesterday when I was chatting with you, Ravi, you know, we are talking about all the comments that were coming on Facebook. And, you know, I mean, I have seen people whom we kind of force continuously, but the kind of comments that I got about you, I mean, it really made me think, what do I learn from you? And something that I really learned from you was that every single Facebook comment, you had gone and said thank you, and you replied, you know. And when I called you and said, Ravi, how do you do this? You know, I find it so difficult. And you said, if somebody has taken time to write a comment to me, I must take some time to respond. And you know, I went back to my Facebook and I responded for a post that I had put in the morning. I responded to all one, you know. I'm serious. So, you know, it's really, I mean, yeah, I know you're my friend, but I think I'm also your fan. So tell me, Ravi.
Not from today onwards. You put me on the spot.
So tell me, what is the advice would you give young Ravi at 21 years old?
Oh, that's a rather difficult one. You're not allowing me to, shall I say, leave any question, I guess, no? Okay. Young Ravi, 21 years old. Okay, let me go on the memory lane to see where I was. Okay. I would give it a thought like this. I would have worked maybe for a small stint, maybe about a couple of years for a larger developed economy than ours. That's what I can even fathom instantly. I would have worked for a larger economy in a developed country and brought something back to this country, but I have no regrets.
There's a question, Ravi. I mean, I'm done with you, but I mean, I'm getting series of questions on chat. So I have to give at least one question for somebody to ask. So here's the question. I like this one. Huh? It says, with our own experience working with Mr. Liyanage, he's always absolutely demanding for performance, yet people don't feel intimidated around him. What's the secret of maintaining this this balance while pushing people to offer their best?
See, that is I'm a demanding leader. I must tell you that that's my nature, because I want to perform by myself. I want to better myself. I said one of the reasons that I took up golf is bettering yourself on a daily basis. I'm demanding for performance for sure. I appreciate that question, and that's a good question and difficult question. When you demand for work, when you demand for tasks, that's what I also mentioned previously when I was relating some of my stories. See, when you demand for their work, and and also if they feel you are behind them with a stewardship, right? With a stewardship to nurture them, stewardship to develop them, stewardship to make an opportunity for them, they don't feel intimidated. And they feel, look here, this guy is pushing for our own good. And this is what I have seen. This is what I've seen in my life. And they feel together we raise the bar. I hope I answered to some extent.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ravi. And it's so beautiful chatting today with you. I know it's pandemic time and, a lot of people at home, but, you're making time to come and spend some time with youngsters to show them that, there's a lot of hope yet, the way that we look at the country and the way that we look at our own responsibilities. So thank you so much, Ravi, for spending time, and till we meet again, all the best and stay
My
safe.
pleasure, Anand. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those who connected, and good luck and stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi.